This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Greetings from the Hammer WSTers. What's going on? Welcome to a special edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk live from Hamilton. We're doing the show today at the Courtyard Marriott, the headquarters of the Football Reporters of Canada, and the media hotel for the upcoming few days. And we made it. Delayed flight last night, got in well after 2 a.m., out to the rink this morning, or to the rink, out to the football stadium this morning, Tim Hortons Field. Saw the Bomber practice, caught up with a few of the fellow media members here. Missed a hell of a media party last night, apparently. Dave Naylor, the host with the most, making it happen in the long tradition started by our good friend Gary Lawless. As Dave told me today, if it wasn't for Gary Lawless, everyone would have just been eating chicken fingers and fries last night. But seemed like it'd be great. But obviously, the real stars of the show were on the football field this morning preparing for the Montreal Alouettes in the 110th Grey Cup. And that, of course, is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Well, I love plenty. We've chatted with a few players today. We'll have some of that for you today, tomorrow. And we also are planning on doing a show on Saturday afternoon. Some of you regulars probably busy on Saturday, but it'll be some great watching to get you ready for the big game on Sunday at some point over the weekend before kickoff on Sunday night. Obviously, we're going to get into the latest with the Jets. The Jets did practice this afternoon, or I guess this morning back in Winnipeg as well. A little bit of power play work today. Kyle Connor apparently still on fire, even in practice. So I'm looking forward to chopping it up, talking Bombers and Jets with both Brandon Rewucki and Scott Billeck. A little later on, we will also welcome in the voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Derek Taylor, who's going to jump on and join us live here at our broadcast location in Hamilton. And really looking forward to that. And I think we'll have for you, I've been waiting all year to sit down and talk, preferably in person, with Jamieson Sheahan, the Bombers punter, of course, the Aussie. He had his family make it up to Winnipeg last week for the West Final. Very smartly, they had an open-ended ticket, so they just got here to Hamilton, or are coming here to Hamilton for the big game. So looking forward to that. We'll have Willie Jefferson, Nick Dembski, and much more, and again, continue it throughout the week. I'll get Remis in here in just a minute as he finishes. I will be honest, and thank you for YouTubers that are with us live right now. We appreciate the patience. We were at practice. The timelines were very tight, to put it mildly. But we've got a great spot to set up. We will have Derek Taylor joining us live a little later on to kind of break down his thoughts on the upcoming game. So let's get on with it. Listen, just before we bring in Michael Remis, let me give a big thanks to all the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Of course, our friends at Coolbet. Shout out to Patty and Jake, who held it down in the lock shop today for us. Dusty is doing a million things right now. He'll be quarterbacking, I believe, the Grey Cup Saturday from the studio along with Marshall Ferguson. And then I know this is strange not to have Derek Taylor call the game, but obviously TSN has the national rights. But CJOB will be carrying the game, and you'll hear our good friend Dusty do the game. But obviously Derek is here for OB, Greg Mackling as well. Those guys will be content machines over the next few days, and we'll talk to DT a little bit about what he's got going on and obviously really dig deep in the game. Also want to thank our friends at Princess Auto, Modern Man Barber Shops, Aquatech, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, the Winnipeg Jets, Vita Health Fresh Market. Don't forget, get to winnipegsportstalk.com/contest and enter to qualify for the marble race on November 30th, final day of Men's Health Month. We've got that beautiful Trevor Linden signed jersey with the certificate of authenticity, as well as the full line of Prairie Natural supplements, which will be given away. So go to winnipegsportstalk.com. Enter. We'll be pulling names throughout the next couple weeks heading into the 30th. Also want to thank Wallace & Wallace. F Apparel, big things coming at F Apparel with the big Black Friday sale coming up, as well as the gang at Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, your Grey Cup headquarters, Little Brown Jug, and of course the gang over at Nick and Nikki DQ. So let's get to it. Let's get Michael Remis in here, who has been working frantically. I finally actually cooled down, Reem. When we finished setting up the backdrop and everything else, there was, well, put it this way, I've been wearing a hoodie outside all day, and I probably don't need it on right now. But here we go. We made it, and it is showtime. How are you?
Feeling good, Huss. I'm here. We're set up. It's been pretty frantic, but hey, we made it. We're in Hamilton for the Grey Cup. Very, very exciting. Excited to be here, and a nice morning at the stadium, which is why we're a bit late starting up. But great to see everyone in chat. Yeah,
don't worry. We'll still crank it out for the full 2 hours plus. Just a little bit of a late start, and obviously we'll get that podcast up as soon as possible for everybody there. What would have been amazing is if we had had some sort of a live stream cam while people waited for us to get going of what was actually happening here in the Dundurn room. We've turned this thing around quite quickly. Backdrop looks good. Shout out to you for getting it, remembering it, and knowing how to set it up. We didn't have the very capable help of our pal Connor to do it like we did at the Fan Fest for the Winnipeg Jets. But it looks good. And you know who else looks good? The Bombers. That was real fun getting out there earlier today to just kind of see the Bombers practice, obviously talk with a bunch of people about the game that you get a chance to see in person that we're usually talking to via video. But man, there is just an air of confidence about the Bombers, and they should be confident, and they should be used to this right now because, well, Jamieson Sheahan is a rookie. Most of these guys have been here before. They know what Grey Cup week is like, and that is a stark contrast to the Montreal Alouettes, who will be facing the Bombers on Sunday.
Yeah, I think for the Bombers, fourth straight Grey Cup, what an incredible accomplishment. But, having been here, going through, the practices, if you have media obligations, broadcast obligations, the preparation involved, bringing all your families over, all that stuff has been arranged. They've done it many times. They know who's coming. They don't have to worry about really anything. All they have to think about is getting as ready as they can for Sunday's game, being prepared and executing their game plan. So I think if you're the Bombers, you have to feel confident. But as you've been saying for the last couple of days, you don't want to be too confident because, look, we saw what happened to Toronto last week. They were 11-point favorites against this Montreal team. So but I think as long as the Bombers don't make those mistakes, like turning the ball over, 9 times, as long as they don't turn the ball over 9 times, yeah, they'll have a pretty good chance of winning.
9 sacks? Yes. 9 turnovers? No. There's your path to victory for the club. But we did get a chance. We caught up with Willie Jefferson, with Nick Dembski, and we'll have that for you over the next day or so. But a really fun conversation with Jamieson Sheahan, who's looking forward to his first championship game. And even talking with people behind the scenes, like the Bombers' operation this week, frankly, is a heck of a lot like their operation on the field. They've been here before. They've done it. They know exactly what they're doing. It's completely laid out. The game plan is there, and they're following it. And, in talking to some people, away from the Winnipeg Football Club, that is a stark contrast to what Montreal is up to right now. I mean, they haven't been here in a long time. Obviously, there's new management, new coaches, new quarterback. And for a team that was thought to be such a long shot to be here, you don't often think about what goes into Grey Cup week. But in a lot of ways, the Alouettes are already playing catch-up, I think, when it comes to this week, because I think we all realize that the Bombers planned for the start of the season. They planned every game week, every bye week, and they made that plan go right up until this Sunday and maybe Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday for what comes after, hopefully, a Grey Cup win. Montreal's got a lot to handle right now, not the least of which is a football team that has been the class of the league in the Canadian Football League for a number of years now.
Yeah, and I think with the Grey Cup, it's not the game itself is a regular game, but all the lead up, again, media obligations, broadcast, arranging tickets for family. I know the Bombers the family plane comes tomorrow. And so all that, it's already been figured out. They know who's coming. All that. And you don't have to deal with any of this extracurricular stuff that you might get overwhelmed by if you've had it before. And I think that could be a huge factor for the Bombers' comfort level as they prepare this week for the Grey Cup.
Long practice today. I mean, they started at 10 a.m. and I know, there's particular rules about when you can film, when you can take pictures. And, that period was, I guess, between the 30th and the 45th. There actually was a funny story, which I'll pass on. We sort of came in, and because we had to go get our credentials this morning, we didn't go on the shuttle. There was another thing that was added into the to-do list before we got the show going on. But anyways, we come in, and we had to walk all the way across the field to get onto the press side and get up to the press box. And, I'm kind of coming in. I was just taking a couple pictures. Hey, the stadium's here. The Bombers are practicing just from deep in the end zone. So whatever, we kind of continue walking around, and then all of a sudden, coming up, our old pal DC, Darren Cameron, looking up, and he's all business, walking towards us. And then he looks and sees at us, and he just starts laughing. And he said, "Hey, we have reports someone was filming in the end zone. We wanted to see." So they're all over it right now. Needless to say, we weren't filming, and there was certainly no guarded secrets of the blue and gold that we'll be putting out, but there will be some great conversations about the game coming up shortly. Brandon Rewucki, as I mentioned, is going to join us. I'm really looking forward to Brandon's thoughts on the game, as well as where the Jets are through 15 games. And, we should mention, Remis, while the focus of Winnipeg sports fans is firmly on Sunday night and the Bombers looking to win another Grey Cup, this is going to be one hell of a sports weekend in the city with the Jets, who have been playing very, very well as of late, getting a chance to go back-to-back at home on the nights that all the fans want to go to the games on, Friday and Saturday night. The Buffalo Sabres in tomorrow, and then the Arizona Coyotes. Now, Coyotes play tonight. They'll be off on Friday, so they'll actually be in Winnipeg relaxing as the Jets play the Buffalo Sabres. There will be a challenge on that, but, when I look at these two games, considering the way the Winnipeg Jets have played so far this season, and pretty much consistently at 5-on-5, this is a massive opportunity for the Jets to make hay and make it a very, very strong homestand before heading out for a pretty challenging road trip that'll take them down to the sunny climates of Florida.
Yeah, I think the Jets are showing the rest of the league, Huss, that they're a real strong team. We've seen the depth, throughout the season. We saw, Niederreiter's line get hot, but I think Kyle Connor has really made a statement over the last 2 weeks. He was named second star of the week. He's had a hat trick. It was only a week ago that we looked at their line, and Scheifele and Connor had the same number of points as Mason Appleton. They had like 9 in 12 games, and for those guys, normally they're having closer to a point per game. Well, they've certainly blown past that, and Kyle Connor's blown past all the goal scorers in the NHL. Tied for the lead with Austin Matthews. So those guys are certainly heating up, and I don't know, the Jets, they're playing very well and playing very consistently, which you want to see, and it's certainly repeatable. We're kind of waiting for the special teams to catch on, although the power play has scored. I think it was the last 7 in the last 6 games, and Connor Hellebuyck, if he gets playing the way that we know that he can, this Jets can be very strong going forward, and then we'll have a lot of conversations, I'm sure, as we approach the trade deadline, because I know we're getting ahead of myself, but I'm looking at all the models coming out, like Dom at The Athletic, having the Jets at, projecting them for 100 points, which would put them pretty firmly in a playoff spot.
Even ahead of his beloved Leafs. The
Yeah.
passion has moved to Winnipeg for the Winnipeg Jets. Listen, Brandon Rewucki is going to jump on with us in just a sec. By the way, gang, I know many of you have already commented on this tweet. I got here last night, and this was very, very late Winnipeg time. But I came across an article in the LA Times from Helene Elliott on our old pal Pierre-Luc Dubois, and I just had to laugh. What are we, 15 games into the season? The column, "The Kings need Pierre-Luc Dubois to lead with urgency in order to gain more wins." It's got some comments from Todd McClelland. And here's a couple paragraphs. But when Dubois isn't involved or isn't in sync with his line mates, the picture is far less than perfect. If he's passive and trying to read and react and figure things out, he's not as effective. Todd McClellan said, and then the uninvolved, hesitant version of Dubois is what the Kings have seen too often this season. And it finished up with the line, the very last paragraph in the article was the coup de grace. For the Kings to succeed, Dubois has to be driving in every sense. He can't be a passenger. And listen, I just had to tweet that out with no comment, just a gif of somebody trying not to laugh. And hey, listen, I don't wish that guy any ill will. I think that it just goes to show, though, how well Kevin Cheveldayoff and the Winnipeg Jets made out on that trade. And obviously, Alex Iafallo has been a huge part of the Jets' success, waiting for Gabe Rivilardi to come back, and they'll have to do it without Rasmus Kapari, who's been a big part of what's going on right now. We'll get to all of this with Brandon Rewucki right now. Just before we do that, a big shout-out to our friends at Modern Man, and a big thank you to everyone that has supported our Movember movement. Of course, if you go into the description of this video, you can click on that link. A bunch of donations in as we get closer to our goal of $2,000. Thank you to everyone that has helped out with that. And a big thank you to Team WST and all the fellas that have been growing their stashes. We'll do, actually, the next couple days will be tough to do it with on site, but early next week we'll get another mid-month
I got him coming
update.
in. We can show an update tomorrow.
Okay, sounds
not
good.
a problem. But we did get a
Right.
we're donate. Shout out to Rob Somerville, always in the chat. Gave a nice donation yesterday, so we'll get those donations updated.
Awesome, Rob. And hey, a
awesome.
big thanks to our friends at Modern Man who are supporting it as well. Of course, 8 locations in Winnipeg, new locations, Pembina Highway and Plessis Road, and a variety of grooming services waiting for you fellas, including haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Book your look via modernmanbarber.com. And hey, I hear there was some snow in Winnipeg this morning. Obviously, it's not pool season. If you're thinking about taking the plunge in 2024, talk to the experts at Aquatech. But right now, whole home renovations start with Aquatech. With thousands of renos as their foundation, Aquatech can upgrade any space in your home. If you're ready to enhance your kitchen, your bathroom, or even add a man cave to your home, visit aqua-tech.ca to learn more about their whole home renovations, including financing options. And hey, our pals at Manitoba Battery ready for the winter and definitely ready for the Grey Cup. Donnie, a big Bomber supporter, as is the company, and a big supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk, and a supporter of all of you that need to make sure you're getting yourself and your family from point A to point B when things start to get real cold in the Winnipeg winter. Don't wait, don't procrastinate, and don't be that guy calling for a boost or a new battery from the side of the road. Get ready for winter at Manitoba Battery. Shop local and get the best prices in town for batteries for your car, truck, and literally everything, beating the pants off the big box stores. And the best part about it is they'll deliver that to you for free anywhere in the city of Winnipeg on any purchase over $60 from Manitoba Battery. It's just that easy. See them at manitobabattery.com. Give them a call at 783-8787 or pop down and see them in person. They'll be more than happy to test your battery as well at no charge at 1026 Logan Avenue. And hey, get ready for your Grey Cup party. You know, Canadian Club is the proud official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. There's been plenty of CC spilt this summer and fall at IG Field. Wherever you are enjoying the Grey Cup, make sure you get Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey and the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Canadian Club as part of your offerings. Make a trip for both the Grey Cup and the holidays to your local Manitoba liquor marts and pick up Canadian Club. Don't forget Canadian Club and Ginger Ale, also available in 473 milliliter cans at your local Manitoba liquor mart. And this Grey Cup, this holiday season, and always remember to enjoy responsibly. All right, let's get Rewucki in here. As I said, it has been a hectic morning leading into the afternoon, but we are good to go. And always great to have Brandon on the program. What's going on, dude? How are you?
I'm doing good. I appreciate your accommodation for my schedule, because it's It's hectic over here too, so let's just battle through, baby.
I'd love to say that we've been spending a lot of time working around skating. We were just worried about getting on the damn air today, and of course setting up our beautiful backdrop that Remis had. There was a little work involved, but anyways, better late than never. And thanks again for coming on. Hey, listen, we'll get to the Jets in a minute, but we are counting down to Sunday. Quick thoughts on the performance of the Bombers on Saturday against the BC Lions, particularly that ferocious defense, and got to get your thoughts on the big game on Sunday.
I'm kind of intrigued. Obviously I don't know, but like, is WST Nation? Is there like a nervous energy? Is it like overconfidence? Like, what's the vibe right now?
I'm nervous that I'm overconfident because I haven't been this confident about any of the games before. Frankly, I mean, like, I don't want to dismiss Montreal. It would be unfair to them. I mean, they did have a pretty good season this year against everybody in the second class of the Canadian Football League. But they never beat BC. They never beat Toronto. They sure as hell didn't beat Winnipeg this year. And, I mean, Toronto, frankly, imploded. I mean, 9 turnovers. Yeah. Their offense didn't do very much in the game as well, Brandon. And I don't know. I mean, we also know about Zach Collaros' complete dominance of Cody Fajardo in the past. So, I really see this game as, the Bombers to win and the Bombers to lose, I guess. And, I think it would take, a similar performance of what Toronto did in imploding. And, listen, this team is too good, too experienced, too been there before, I think, to do that. So my nervous energy is the fact that I'm feeling like I'm too confident, but I think the Bombers have every reason to be very confident, but I know that they won't take their opponent lightly.
Yeah, that's kind of the main thing in this, because I'm terrified. I'm not going to enjoy the game at all because it's just like, and especially like the Bombers' recent history in this, but even the CFL as a whole. Like, I don't know if the NFL has been the same, but like we all the time we see these like 8-10 or 9-9 teams that aren't playing any decent as the season comes to an end. They come to the playoffs and they find a way to sneak out a Grey Cup, and that's the only thing that has me nervous here, is that Montreal doesn't really have any business being there, but they're there now, and it's one game away from ultimate glory. So the Bombers have the edge over the Als, and I would imagine every single category. The same thing happened to Toronto, though, and they're watching the Grey Cup on the couch right now. So I'm just nervous just because Toronto or Montreal is such a heavy underdog in this. I don't know. I'm just not going to enjoy the game until probably like late in the fourth if they're up by a couple of scores. But yeah, that the way the defense performed, that especially the setup against BC, it was magical. I mean, the D line for, maybe at times coasting through the regular season. The defense as a whole, I think we all kind of expected that once the actual games mattered, that they would show up in the biggest way, and they did. I mean, they absolutely mauled the BC Lions for pretty much the entire contest. And outside of a fluke Hail Mary at the half, that's a 20-point victory for the Blue Bombers against maybe the second or third best team in the CFL this year. So there's really no reason the Bombers shouldn't be favored by closer to 10 points. But it's just that I just hate when you go up against an underdog like that has nothing to lose. So that kind of just the whole aura around the matchup terrifies me. But the Bombers are the better team, so I think maybe even losing the Grey Cup last year just sharpens their focus a little bit more.
But two things on that. I think they're very cognizant of the mistakes that they made last year and vowed not to repeat them this year in that Grey Cup. But the other part of it is, let's remember the game between Montreal and Winnipeg here in the Peg at IG Field this summer. Zach Collaros threw 2 pick sixes. He was pissed off for a month about those. They were talking about other wins, and he's like still steaming about those plays. The fact that happened once, I cannot see that happen again. And even in a game where Montreal had 2 pick sixes, Brandon, the Bombers won by 30 and put up 47 on them. So, as I say, the more I think this through, I fully believe that the Bombers are going to come out and, have a very strong game. And it will be up to the Montreal Alouettes to play above any level we've seen so far to hang with the club. Listen, their defense has been a lot better as of late, and I think that is important. But even in that win last week, their offense was pedestrian. And I mean, Cody Fajardo probably is having nightmares this week because as happy as he was to win that game, the other side of the coin was he has to face the Blue Bomber defense, which has terrorized him ever since he got to the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, and if Vernon Adams wasn't looking like Lamar Jackson in that game, the Bombers would have had like 15 sacks. And so Fajardo's got some wheels on him, but if the Bombers D-line is if they're dialing it up again like they did last week, it's we see it all the time in championship games in football, right? It's over. Like Montreal is just not going to be able to survive. So that's always been Winnipeg's trump card when it comes down to the clutch and in these playoff games. And I see no reason why that doesn't continue. And yeah, I mean, maybe the biggest reason for optimism is in that game against Toronto. Montreal offensively, despite putting up as many points as they did, Montreal didn't really look all that impressive. It was the amount of turnovers, the amount of pick sixes that the Alouettes had that makes the scoreline look like it was maybe a bit of a dominant offensive performance. So, yeah, maybe you're making me feel better about this. I hate being a fan of a team that's massive favorites in a winner take all game like this. But as to which team looked more impressive, despite Toronto pulling off the upset last week, I would still say that the Bombers look like the more impressive team because BC didn't implode, like you said, the way that Chad Kelly and the Argos did.
Well, and I mean, just being around the team today, and the Alouettes are practicing right now, so we didn't stick around for that. But, I mean, this team is calm. They're confident. They're focused. They had a long practice today, hit a whole bunch of things, offense versus defense, obviously no real hitting. But they seem to be prepared, and they've been here before. They've done it. And I do wonder, I kind of talked about this off the show, the unique challenge that Montreal has in. I mean, this team hasn't been there as a team before. Moss's first year with the Alouettes. You got Fajardo coming in. And listen, I'll be honest, I don't know how much Grey Cup planning they were doing before Saturday at about 5 o'clock. And it is a very different beast, and there's a lot that goes into it. And, you know, the Bombers have been here to the last 3, now 4 in a row. And I'm sure had this as part of their week planned out all the way back when they got started. Should be a great one, and cannot wait till Sunday. That being said, I can't wait till Friday and Saturday to see the Jets get back on the ice. This has been a heck of a run. I mean, you know, they did have the loss to Dallas in a game that I still thought they played quite well, was right there with the team that, you know, is one of the true, I think, Stanley Cup contenders. And then a nice win against New Jersey on Tuesday. Now we get back-to-backs against Buffalo and Arizona before the team hits the road. But, you know, listen, kind of bigger picture, not necessarily just the last game in this weekend. Where are you at on the club right now through 15 games, and how does the performance of the club through 15 games compared to what you were sort of expecting before we dropped the puck in Calgary for game 1?
Yeah, I would say big picture, average penalty kill would have the Winnipeg Jets fighting for first in the West. And that's way above where I thought they would be going into the season. I didn't have overly high expectations, to be honest, Huss. You know, I thought like a lot of people, I believe, that the Jets were going to be a bubble team. And I thought maybe even third in the Central might be a little bit out of reach for them, just because Minnesota, despite their flaws over the past few years, you know, they were putting up 100-point seasons pretty consistently. But I mean, you know, 7 games into the season, I thought, I think we got to put the Jets up ahead of Minnesota, you know, in terms of the Central Division pecking order. And then the way it's played out since then, 15 games in, I'm going to be beyond shocked if the Jets find themselves below third in the Central Division. And I think they've got everything right now, if you look under the hood, to be a team that battles for home ice in round 1. I mean, they've been tremendous. 5-on-5, they've been one of the better teams in the NHL. And that's not really hyperbole. Like they've just been so solid in their own end, and they're still finding a way to get a decent amount of offense at the other end of the ice. It's really just been, the penalty kill has been awful. They at least have some history of success on that unit with this coaching staff that kind of gives you some hope that they can turn it around. But other than a bad penalty kill and the goaltending being a little bit below average compared to what expectations were, this is as good as you could have hoped for out of the Winnipeg Jets so far. And I think with the way that they've played, we did see this last year, to be fair, in the first half, but it's hard not to kind of look ahead to the second half of the season and go, hey, like, let's not talk playoff spot. Let's talk starting game one in Winnipeg here. Let's talk what kind of addition can we make for a deep playoff run. They've, as of right now, through 15 games, I think been as impressive outside of the expected Stanley Cup contenders so far to start the season.
You know, I had said on the show about a week and a half ago or so that I was as excited and sort of optimistic about where the team is at and where the team is going as I've been, you know, in about 4 years. And, you know, it has played out game after game. And a lot of it was more about just the way that this team is built and is coming together with everybody being a part of it. And that even when the team had been playing at a much, with a better record through 15 games last year, there was, you know, Connor Hellebuyck standing on his head all the time. There was an elite penalty kill that was getting them out of a lot of trouble. When you look at it right now, it is kind of the opposite, Brandon. And I have no doubt that Connor Hellebuyck has an extra level or two that we will see, hopefully very soon. And I also think that the penalty kill is, I mean, listen, does it get back into the top 10 after the start they've had? Well, that might be tough. But to be honest, the 15 games in the past, I mean, if you're looking at the overall numbers for the season, that's going to have a big effect on it. But if they can turn that around and, you know, and again, goaltending is a big part of it as well. I mean, the 5-on-5 numbers for Hellebuyck are actually quite good. They're above average.
Yeah.
It's what's been happening on the PK. And, you know, I had to laugh. I mean, Scott Arniel has, you know, kind of been thrust into this role with Rick Bowness away from the club. And I think he's done an admirable job. And there was somebody online, I won't say who, but, you know, was taking some shots at them about the horrible penalty kill and saying he has no idea what he's doing. Well, he was also the guy behind the penalty kill that had them in the top 10 of the league last year. So the things that right now maybe are holding the Jets back from having a better record, I think you would have to assume get better when you're talking about goaltending and talking about the penalty kill. And the way that they have been as consistent as they've been is the foundation of this team at 5-on-5. Listen, if you're a Winnipeg Jet fan, I don't think you can help but think that, you know what, maybe Kevin Cheveldayoff and Mark Chipman saying that they're not rebuilding. They think that they've got a really good team. They've got a lot of good players. And you add in from the deadline Niederreiter and Nemetsnikov, and then the three guys from the Kings, albeit two of them out with injury right now, have changed the look of this team. They've made them much deeper. And, I mean, there are, when you break it down at just about every aspect, I mean, it's hard to really nitpick too much with where the team is other than the obvious things that we just talked about.
No, and I think, you know, like obviously there's the Dubois trade itself, but the Wheeler departure and then the two deadline players from last year, the rest of the roster is basically the same. But I think we're just seeing the impact of forwards that can play strong defensively and what that does to this entire team, right? Because the blue line has been there really hasn't been a passenger. Like Nate Schmidt's been up and down, but they've all been really, really solid so far. And I think that's been a pretty understated impact on this team's success so far, is the fact that Iafallo knows what he's doing in his own end. Nino Niederreiter is a pro's pro. You know, Velarde's only had a couple games of impact there, but when he gets back in, he's going to be one of this team's better defensive forwards. And even the young cat, Cole Perfetti, he knows what he's doing down there. Like, he's not a liability whatsoever at all. And so, you know, I think we're seeing like the team defense as a whole has been miles ahead of where it was last year. And I think that's in a massive way also impacted how well the blue line has looked for the majority of this season as well. So it's a different look forward core. But, you know, as evidence of Kyle Connor leading the league in scoring, Mark Scheifele, what is he, top 10 in NHL scoring? You know, there's still enough game-breaking offense here for this team to break teams open. And that's with Nikolai Ehlers maybe having the worst start to a season he's had in 7 or 8 years. And if he gets going, it gets pretty exciting pretty quickly if the Jets are able to maintain their level of 5-on-5 dominance, because that's what they've been at even strength, a dominant hockey team.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, we didn't even mention Ehlers, and it really seems like he's coming around. I mean, and, you know, he's coming around, you know, and getting goals. Cole Perfetti's been awesome and continues to get better and better and more confident every game. But we're seeing the best of what's in the toolbox of Cole Perfetti, and none better than that gimme that Ehlers had on that brilliant pass from Cole earlier this week. But when you put that all together, it is a team that I think that we'll be speaking about, in that mix in the top three in the Central Division. And listen, Colorado's had some real ugly games. I mean, I think you realize that the talent that they have, they are going to be there. Dallas is going to be there. But there's an opportunity right now to sort of, maybe extend the gap a little bit amongst the other teams in that division. And, we won't be talking wild card. We'll be talking about, as you mentioned, fighting for a home playoff game in the first bit of the season. You mentioned Kyle Connor, and dude, it is not even 2 weeks since we were talking on the program and going, look at this. And this was a time where the Adam Lowry line was really carrying the club, and they'd had about a quiet 4 or 5 games for Connor and Scheifele. But it was a conversation about the depth of the team and 7 players at or within 1 point of the team lead. And you had Nito Niederreiter there. You had Mason Appleton. Actually, this was coming out of the Arizona game a couple Saturdays ago. Well, since then, Kyle Connor has been on fire, as has Mark Scheifele. And listen, Alex Iafallo is a big, big part of that. It took a little bit, but man, is that line playing well. What have you seen from Connor, from Scheifele, as well as the role of Iafallo on that top line that has been terrorizing opposition goalies for the last 10, 12 days?
He's one of the best in the game when it comes to putting the puck in the net. I don't know how many forwards in the NHL are better than him at coming in with speed and finding space in the offensive zone, even when it's crowded. And then so he gets a ton of credit for doing that. It's the hardest thing to do in the sport. But Mark Scheifele to me has been, I would call him the team's MVP so far. Both ends of the ice, he's been fantastic. We talked about that shift against the Blues a couple games back. He followed that up with another beauty the other night, and he's continued to set the tone, and that's what the Jets have needed him to be basically since he was taking over the reins as the number 1 center, is be the tone setter for the team, and he's done that. He's driving it all over the place for the team, and I think he's the main reason for success on that line right now. The other two have been tremendous, don't get me wrong there, but when Scheif is going like he is right now, it's just a different hockey team, and I think it's showing up and down the roster there. But Iafallo is, for a guy that was kind of seen as a cap throw into the deal, he's been a pretty tremendous piece, man. Like he does a lot of the dirty work. It's nothing overly fancy, but he knows what spots to be in. He plays off of them extremely well. He's able to win a lot of battles. He's tough down low. He's a good player. It'll be intriguing to see what happens when Balharry comes back, how the team rejigs their lineup there.
Well, just quickly, let's get to that. Your thoughts on that, because you're right. How the hell do you break up Iafallo, Scheifele, and Connor right now? I don't think there's many coaches that would do that. So do you look at Balharry potentially on line 2 at center, or do you move Perfetti back into center? Although he's been doing so well on the wing right now, and get Balharry in at that point. Assuming he's ready, I could see maybe easing him into the lineup with the game on the 4th line, or mixing in on the 3rd line fit. But where do you see that fit if the 1 and 3 lines pretty much are untouchable right now?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You don't touch those lines. I agree with, you have the opportunity now to ease him in on the 4th line for a game or two, but when he's ready to go, it's the line that I wanted to see start the year as this team's 2nd line. So I'll bang the drum for it again. But I would love to see Balharry down the middle between Ehlers and Perfetti. And then Vlad Nemesnikov gets dropped down either the wing or down the middle on the 4th line there. And I think the team's set up front at that point. I do ultimately believe that Balharry can be a high-end centerman in the NHL. High-end meaning, can be a center of a legitimate top 2 line on a playoff contending team. I don't know if I have that same belief in Perfetti. And I think that's kind of the main point that you brought up there at the end. Why you don't want to change the 1st and the 3rd line right now, which is fair. But when you have a guy going as well as he is right now out there on the wing, let's just let him flourish out there. And I think Velarde's got the goods to get it done there down the middle. And I just think those 3 will play off each other really well, because Balharry can kind of be the trigger man. I think it was Murat Atesh that said this in The Athletic, that Ehlers can be kind of like the organized chaos on the line, and then Perfetti's going to find both of them in space. He'll use his intelligence to open up some time and space for his line mates there. So that's what I would do. As to what the Jets will do, I would imagine that we'll see Perfetti, Ehlers, Vilardi in some capacity as the second line. I don't have a good idea what they're going to do. But, I mean, they move Perfetti off center so quickly there that you kind of, if I had to lean one way or the other, I think they might give Vilardi the shot down the middle there. But if those three are the team's second line, then no complaints from me there. I think that's probably the best way to go about it right now with how good everybody else is going.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't a knock on Cole Perfetti's eventual ability to hang at center on a number 2 line in the National Hockey League. But hell, you got Nemetsnikov playing the middle right now. You got Perfetti on the wing, and he's scoring and you're getting points every single night. And that line, continues to carry their share of play and create things going on. So I'm sort of with you. I mean, I kind of think that probably is where they go first. And I'll also be interested to see how Vilardi looks down the middle. Obviously, he started on the wing, but he is a player that has played both center and wing during his NHL career. We can't talk about Vilardi and Iafallo without talking about the trade. And I'm not sure if you caught my just before I brought you on, Aline Elliott's article in the LA Times about PLD. And listen, there is a little bit of chuckling, I'm sure, amongst Winnipeg Jet fans. But I mean, I wasn't surprised at all. That is the exact thing that we said so many times back here in Winnipeg. This is a guy that when he is on, he's an absolute difference maker. The issue is that he's not on enough right now. And listen, you get through the first 10 games. Now you're at 15. The team has had a bunch of good wins. They are playing quite well on the road. They haven't done it at home. Listen, you trade those sort of players away. You sign a guy to an 8-year deal. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And it sounds like the heat's turning up a little bit on PLD to bring it a little more consistently.
Yeah, only 600 games more to go in the contract. So everything's going to be fine in LA. It's funny because this term is usually kind of left solely for Russian players. But, I mean, to me, Dubois is just the definition of an enigma. And it's like you said, I mean, two teams, the Columbus fans said, hey, when he's on, he's great. When he's not much of help to the team. Winnipeg fans, exact same thing. 15 games into his LA tenure, the exact same thing. He's not young anymore, right? Like when you're in your 20s in the NHL or really any pro sports, you are what you are at that point. And we'll see. I mean, he can be on for a playoff run for the Kings, and they won't really care all that much about him being a no-show for 40, 50 games during the regular season. But I think you ask any Jet fan, and if they want to redo on that trade, it's going to be a resounding no on that. Because Winnipeg did quite well on that, and it's just tough when you pay somebody that much money and you're only getting high-end performances 40 or 50% of the time. When you pay somebody $9 million a year in the NHL, they need to be a driver 8 games out of 10, 9 games out of 10, not 5 games out of 10. And hey, we'll see you guys in a week. I'm gonna take this one off for a little bit. So that level of not needing to watch frustration from the Winnipeg side of things, I think everybody's like, yeah, let's sign up for that. But I just don't see how it's going to turn around or change all that much moving forward here, because this is the third stop that he showed it in, and he's shown his colors. He's going to be good some games. He's going to be awful a few others, and then we'll mix in some penalty troubles all throughout that as well. So even with Vilardi not playing all that much, Huss, I don't think too many Jets fans have been disappointed with the trade, just with how well Iafallo and Kuparia fit in so far.
Yeah, listen, I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff took a lot of heat in this city, in our chat room, over the course of last season and even into the summer. Not as much right now. Things are looking good, and that trade is looking absolutely amazing. B, before we go, score prediction for Sunday in the Grey Cup, Bombers Owls.
24-13.
24-13. All right. There you have it. 11 points. I like it. Sounds very similar to what we saw last week against the British Columbia Lions. Brandon, enjoy the Jet games Friday and Saturday. the Grey Cup Sunday. We'll see you back in the Peg next week. Thanks again, and fill people in on when the next Skates and Plates will be popping up on people's pod feeds.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, drop in tomorrow, so make sure to check that out, and then back at it again on Tuesday morning. But yeah, have a great time out there, man. Stay safe. Come back in one piece. We'll talk next week.
You got it. Thanks for doing this. There's Brandon Rewucki, the host of Skates and Plates. Pick it up wherever you get your favorite podcast, like Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, we're going to have some more Jets Bombers talk coming up with Scott Billeck. We're going to play our interview, a real fun one with the Aussie punter of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on his first season here in 3-down football and the upcoming championship game. And the voice of the Bombers, Derek Taylor, is going to jump on with us as well, live here at the Courtyard Marriott in Hamilton as we count down to Grey Cup. But before we bring on Billeck, folks, many of you have been waiting for some Friday and Saturday night games. Well, this is your weekend. Tomorrow night, Buffalo Sabres in 7 o'clock p.m., and a Saturday night game. Got a couple Saturday games, but they've been matinees. This is the one we've been waiting for. Arizona Coyotes, Saturday night. Tickets available at winnipegjets.com, and keep your eyes out for some big deals coming in for Black Friday, Cyber Monday from the Winnipeg Jets. I'm sure most of you already follow them there on their socials, but keep an eye on the out. I know Winnipeggers love a great deal, and I know a lot of people that maybe haven't been out to the rink looking forward to getting out to see this team that has excited the fan base the way they have right now. winnipegjets.com for all of that information. As I mentioned, we qualified 3 individuals yesterday. Riley Smith, as well as Spency, and who's the other one?
David Zirk.
David Zirk as well. Well done, gentlemen. They all have a marble in our race on November 30th for that amazing Trevor Linden autographed jersey, courtesy of our friends at Prairie Naturals, as well as the full line of Prairie Natural supplements. So what you need to do is go to winnipegsportstalk.com/contest, enter your name in there. We'll announce more qualifiers over the next few days and all the way up until November 30th, and then a special Thursday marble race that day, the final day of Men's Health Month. And we'll be giving that great prize away, courtesy of our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market. Of course, it is Men's Health Month. If you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, groceries, Vita Health is the spot for that. And as it is Men's Health Month, take a good look at Canada's #1 men's health brand, Prairie Naturals, for their full line of supplements to help you and men around the country with everything from prostate glands to low energy and testosterone. And it's on sale all month at Vita Health. Vita Health Fresh Market, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 6 Winnipeg locations and online over at myvita.ca. The Wallace and Wallace gang are excited of the game. We got a nice text from my pal Gord Dimitru over there saying have one for him. And obviously everyone's getting ready. Listen, they've been so busy doing fencing all summer. You might not know that they're also the leaders in overhead garage doors in Winnipeg. And listen, that overhead garage door of yours had lots of ups and downs this summer, working hard to get you and your family all that summer fun and back to school into the fall. Well, guess what? That overhead door is about to work a whole lot harder, because winter is the season that puts the most stress on a garage door. The right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. Give Wallace & Wallace a call to book your inspection and maintenance service. Call today for residential and commercial overhead door sales and service. There's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. And hey, you all know that F Apparel is the go-to spot for men's clothing here in Manitoba, but they've got a lot going on right now. Starting on Monday is the Black Friday sale in-store and online at fapparel.com. And check this out. Custom suits as low as $350. Shirts as low as $50. Ties from $15. Tons of great deals to be had. Best way to do it is visit their website at fapparel. That's EPHapparel.com. You can also check out everything else they have online, as well as make an appointment to come in for a fitting and make an appointment to get in and shop the sale. Again, F Apparel. Black Friday sale in-store and online beginning on Monday, 190 Smith Street downtown, and at fapparel.com. All right. We'll have Derek Taylor join us a little later on for more as we get ready for the Big Grey Cup and a fun chat we had earlier today after practice with Jamieson Sheahan of the Bombers. But right now, let's welcome in Scott Billeck from the Winnipeg Sun to the party. Billeck, what's up, man? How are you?
Let's go. Grey Cup week. I don't know. I'm at home here, kind of missing out on all the fun there. It looks like it's awards tonight, I think, down at Niagara Falls. It looks like a lot of fun out there. So we're just over here covering the Jets.
Well, that's all right. It was great to see your colleagues all hands on deck. Ted Wyman is here. Freezer's here. I know they'll be heading to the awards tonight. I'm pretty sure there's a free meal for the media, so they will most certainly be all over that right now. But listen, I mean, it was funny seeing, just in chatting with everybody today, the difference between the Bombers and the Alouettes in the situation that they're in right now. I think the Bombers basically started this season completely expecting to be there, and I'm not sure, as much as the Montreal Alouettes went into Toronto with every intention of winning the game, whether they had much plan or preparation for Grey Cup week, not necessarily the game, but everything that comes around it. And I mean, it's impossible not to feel just an aura, not of invincibility, but of quiet confidence of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers because they have been there. I mean, how much does the past, do you think, factor into what happens on Sunday? Never mind the head-to-head matchups between these two teams, which were completely dominated by Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, I think it factors in big, just in the nerves, right? In the preparation for a week. Like if you've been there before, you don't have to answer or wait until some questions are answered, right? Like, how am I going to feel going into this week? What is it going to be like in the days leading up to this game? I mean, just all sorts of championship game sort of questions and anxieties and stuff like that the Bombers just simply aren't going to have this week. And I think from the time that the final whistle blew last year against Toronto, and knowing that this team was probably going to bring back most of these guys, I think it's just been all hands on deck. It's been all business for the Bombers, right? And then you have a Montreal team who's very much, probably happy to be there, right? Maybe a little surprised, as you said, and I think at the end of the day, I mean, you look at this Montreal team, they didn't beat the big three all season, right? And then obviously beat them when it mattered. I don't think that worries the Bombers at all, because they're going to execute and try and go out and execute their own kind of game plan and that sort of thing. But I do think you have to be a little weary about a Montreal team that nobody really is giving any kind of credence to the fact that they could win this and be the 11-7 team that couldn't beat anybody, any of the good teams in the regular season, but found a way to peak at the right time, which is now. That said, I mean, you look at the way the Bombers played last week and that sort of thing against a tough opponent in the BC Lions. I don't think that. I think if you're the Bombers, you're feeling good about where you are, but you know that there's one more game to handle, and you're not going to maybe did the Bombers, I mean, in their heart of hearts, if you really kind of talk to them about last year, did they maybe kind of just let Toronto a little bit off the hook in terms of how they felt about Toronto or whatever? Did Mike O'Shea maybe get out coached a little bit? Again, I don't think. One thing about this Bomber team, Huss, we don't really often see this team make the same mistakes, right? This is not a team that overlooks a team for a second time or whatever. So I think this team knows how to win these games, how to prepare for these games, and I think now it also knows how to kind of not let. I don't want to call it complacency. It's not a word to be used for Mike O'Shea's teams, really, but. I think at the end of the day, this team, I think they know what it takes and what it's going to take. And there's a lot of veterans, a lot of leaders in that Bomber dressing room that aren't going to let, potentially what happened last year happen again this year. I think this Bomber team is is primed for a third Grey Cup year in 4 years.
You know what? I feel the same way. And I mean, listen, let's think about how Montreal won that game. I mean, Toronto turned the football over 9 times.
Yeah, they were horrible,
and
right?
I'll tell you what, if the Bombers turn the ball over 9 times, they're dead. Any team is in a championship game. But when you think about the lessons learned from last year and how this really does feel like an unfinished business tour that has taken place pretty much from day one of training camp up until now, the lessons learned from the Grey Cup, but also, and this in particular goes to one player, and that's Zach Collaros. And listen, Zach, did he have to be great against BC? No, because when you're playing bully ball the way the team was, with the defense just terrorizing BC every time they were out on the field, and the offensive line and Brady Oliveira doing what they're doing, at a certain point you really can manage the game, and that's what happened. But I mean, the one thing that would get Montreal into the game is doing something like, throw 2 pick sixes. That happened this year already. He was pissed off for a month about it. And the Bombers still won that game by 30 points. Like the Montreal offense put up 3 in the first game. They put up 3 in the second game, a grand total of 6 points. So things would have to drastically change for this one to be. And I just think that the veteran savvy, the been there before factor, is a big part of the Bombers, and why I think Bomber fans should be confident. Although the amount of confidence, I think, also makes you nervous because you make a great point. There have been upsets in the past many times with teams that sort of squeaked in. No one expected them to be there, and all of a sudden on Grey Cup Sunday they were making plays and running around. But man, I think
that got taken care of last year, Huss? I think for the Bombers, at least from the Bombers' perspective, I think that's out of their system now. If that's what happened last year, whether or not you thought the Argos would be there last year or not, I think that's out of their system now. I think sometimes you got to learn to lose before you can learn to win. Obviously, the Bombers won twice. They had also lost quite a bit. Obviously the 30-year stretch there without a cup. But now, they obviously won 2, lost the third one. I think now, I mean, I would be shocked if the Bombers didn't come out and just kind of dominate this game, because I just think that this team, this is what they've played for all year. I don't think anything else mattered this year, but getting back to this game and winning it and taking care of that business that they left there last year right around this time. So I think I'd be shocked if this team wasn't exactly what this team does in those business-like games. In that game that they played against BC after losing 30-6. I think that's the type of team after losing the Labor Day game and coming out and just absolutely destroying the Rough Riders in the Banjo Bowl. I think that is kind of what we expect from the Bombers. This is an extension of last season, and whether or not, it doesn't matter who's their opponent is. This is a business time game for this team, and they're going to come out and execute exactly that and lift a cup for a third time in 4 years.
Well, you know what? I'll save a prediction from you until right at the end of the interview. Let's kind of move over to the Jets, and this is going to be quite popular in the chat. Scotty Billeck, you got a Ville Heinola update. What have you learned?
Well, it's funny because we get it was interesting. There was a kid, I don't know whose kid it was. It wasn't a player's kid, a fan. And he was kind of talking to Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele, Nino Niederreiter, guys like that. And then I turn around to go in the dressing room because, guys were starting to file in and we were whatever. And then I almost ran into Ville, right? So, and I see him there. So I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? How's your ankle or whatever? And he was wearing a bit of a tensor bandage around it and that sort of thing. But I just asked him, straight up, have you skated yet or whatever? He hasn't. But he's feeling good and he's not walking. There's no crutches anymore. I think they sort of had kind of a chair or something that he could use to kind of get around at one point. That's gone. So, we're right at the 6-week mark, Huss. I think this is the first week, to the day. Today is 6 weeks since October 5th, and when he busted his ankle up there. So the fact that he's back with the team, and it's mid-November right now. Does that mean he's on course for more of that 8-week timeline than the 12-week one, which would place him right around after Christmas, maybe the New Year. That remains to be seen. But the fact that he's walking, I didn't see a noticeable limp today in his movements or anything like that. So I think now it's all just obviously about healing, making sure it's fully healed before I guess he puts his his foot back into a skate and starts moving. But I mean, he seemed in good spirits today. It's been tough, obviously, for Philly. I mean, he should have been on this team, probably playing upwards of maybe even all 15 games at this point for the Jets. But obviously, that hasn't happened. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he's around, it looks like he was in his shorts workout stuff, so he's doing something. And yeah, I mean, we're getting close. We're 2 weeks out from that 8-week, which the window, I guess, starts to open. And then we start to wonder, what's going to happen with Philly. I would suspect he gets, a 2-week conditioning stint with the Moose to get him back up. I mean, obviously he hasn't skated at all since October 5th. So he's going to have to get that back under him, get that kind of, that game, get back up to game speed and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, good to see him. I mean, he's usually walking around with a smile on his face, and he wasn't, obviously, after breaking his ankle. But nice to see the smile back on Billy, and hope he's back sooner rather than later, because I still think there's room on this Jets defense for him when he is ready to return.
I think there is for sure. I also think that, while he'll probably come back and skate with the team a little bit and, kind of still, hopefully feel a part of it, be around it, I would be stunned, frankly, if there wasn't at least a 2-week conditioning stint with the Manitoba Moose to get up to speed before coming into the lineup at some point. Because, as I said, this young man needs to play, and he certainly probably needs to play a few games before going out and really wanting to put his best foot forward in another opportunity in NHL games.
Yeah, I mean, just a tremendous training camp, right? I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, you hope, I think, just for Billy's sake, that when he does come back, it's. I mean, there's going to be rust, of course, right? But you hope you can knock that rust off pretty quickly, and then just kind of get back to where he was, because I mean, this was a guy that I believe, would have been in that opening, not just on the team, but on the opening night roster, in the opening night lineup, because of just how well he was playing, how great he was moving the puck, how his decision making and just using his body instead of, we saw a lot of Ville Heinola before. The one thing that maybe was a knock on his game was, one, the puck could be a grenade at times on his stick, and two, he'd get pushed around a little bit. But I thought we saw during training camp and in the exhibition games he played, I think he played 6 of them for sure, before getting injured there. And you're wondering, can he handle this now? Can he handle that physicality and the things that are going to be demanded of him when he gets to the NHL and plays regularly? And I thought he did a really, really good job of that during camp. So I think the biggest thing for him now is just get back, obviously get back recovered, healthy, get back to skating, and then just get that confidence back. Because if he hasn't lost that through all this, I think he'll be back in the lineup or be in the lineup making his debut, sooner rather than later.
Couple things quickly to get to in chat. All caps Kyle drops this one. If a senior player, let's say Scheifele, gets hurt, is he allowed to have a conditional stint with the Moose, or is that just a MLB thing? No, absolutely.
I don't think they would with a guy like Scheifele.
No, it's a little different. Yeah. But I mean, and listen, even Declan Chisholm, I mean, he wasn't even injured. They gave him a conditioning stint as he is with the Moose to try and get him some games before potentially coming back, and that does not expose a player to waivers. And I know we're talking about defense. I mean, SK says now's the time to trade Schmidt. He has value now, guys. Like,
you're not going to trade him.
Like, here's the thing. I mean,
it's not hard.
$6 million on that cap. I mean, and listen, it's not like he's killing the team or anything like that right now. Far from it. But I mean, that would be like, at the end of the day, this is a cap league right now. So many teams are capped out. That is one of, if not the least tradable contracts on the Winnipeg Jets. So don't get your hopes up on that. And at the same time, I mean, I think the organization showed that they were willing to start the season with Nate Schmidt in the press box. And I would assume, based on the lineup, that would be the guy that would go up stairs if Billy Hainala, is activated and put into the lineup. But cross that bridge when it counts. And let's face it, if this team's going to be a playoff team, if this team is going to potentially, win a round or two or get on a bit of a roll, we all know you need 8, 9, you need 10 defensemen at times in the grind of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So that is, he'll be there. Whether he'll play every night, I mean, I think that's up in the air. But I don't think that anything that's happened this year has all of a sudden made that contract any more movable than it was in the offseason or at the beginning of the year. Billeck, let's pivot over to red-hot Kyle Connor, who is tied for the lead in goals right now. Mark Scheifele and the heater that he's on. Alex Iafallo, but more so the power play. And I go back to the Vegas game, where the team was really struggling and special teams were basically an anchor for the team because they were playing so well at 5-on-5. And I remember that game, that goal that they scored to kind of break that slump where Iafallo was in the middle of the net. And, they were finally getting a little bit of traffic in front of opposition goaltenders and finally got rewarded. We've seen two things that have changed, in my opinion, with the power play. A little more traffic in net. Maybe they learned something from what the Rangers did to them with Chris Kreider being basically a human eclipse in front of Hellebuck in the game here in Manitoba. But, man, you look at the way the team is playing right now on the power play, especially on the top unit, just how much movement, not only of the puck, but of the players. Just your thoughts on how this power play looks so different and has been so much more successful in the past couple of weeks than with the early season struggles.
Yeah, I mean, it's two words, Huss, right? And you said them both. I think chaos and movement, and that's what they've done. They've created chaos by having somebody in front of the net, right? So, like when you take a shot, whether or not the goalie sees it or not, like it's often been a rebound or whatever. So you have guys going to the net. There's been that chaos, and Alex Iafallo has been a big part of that, of course. And then obviously the movement, and we saw it. So it's funny this morning. It's funny we were talking about this. Because Jets were practicing power play this morning, their first unit, and you were watching this team move. And so the first couple of rushes that they did on it, a lot of movement, right? A lot of movement. It was good. It looked really crisp. Guys were moving, a lot of interchanging around the point. This is something this team likes to do. It creates a lot of mismatching and that sort of thing. But there was one rush where it was Mark Scheifele had the puck, and it was just like it was very stationary again, right? And so Scheifele moved it back up to the point to Josh Morrissey. But then Josh Morrissey flicked it over to Kyle Connor, and immediately Kyle Connor was moving around again to try and get that going. So Brad Lauer said it today. He was talking to us today about it, and he mentioned the movement too. He said that when this team wasn't doing well early on this season, it was stagnant. And that's true. I mean, I think one of the hallmarks of this power play right now, and has been, I think, for a long time with this team, is that when it moves, it is very dangerous. And part of it is because there's not enough. If you can move that puck in milliseconds from, let's say, Scheifele to the bumper, Cole Perfetti, or Scheifele to the point to Kyle Connor for the one-timer, or we just see Mark Scheifele thread the needle and put a perfect pass to Kyle Connor to rip one, it's just very difficult for the goalie to move around. It's very difficult for the defenders defending that penalty on that penalty kill to keep up with that, right? And so either it gets, first of all, it opens up the shooting lanes, because that's one of the things that when this power play was so stagnant before, there was just no lanes. You're firing into shin pads, right? And if you didn't fire into a shin pad, the goalie was just always set, and it didn't really often matter if somebody was in front, because like it would just hit them right in the breadbasket. So I think the biggest thing always for me on this power play is movement. But in that movement, it creates a little bit of chaos. Then you fire a puck in, and then there's Alex Iafallo there or whoever. There's somebody rare, and it just creates this mismatch that there should be when you're playing 5-on-4. So yeah, to me, it's been very, very, very much about movement, and I think that movement comes on the confidence of these players, right? Like I think when they're not feeling it, it does sag a little bit. There is that stagnation that happens. But right now, it looks well, and in practice, it looks good. That's the one. I think one thing that a lot of fans don't get to see is, because you just, they're not at practice. You don't, especially when it's at Canada Life Center, nobody's really allowed in to watch it. But I think you can get a good feel of how this power play is going to be that night, or even in this stretch of time or whatever, by how they're practicing. Because the way that they practice often, and it sounds sort of cliche, but the way that they practice oftentimes spills over into the games. And you can tell when this power play has got confidence on it. And one nice thing about that they get, and just as an aside here, is that, I mean, obviously this penalty kill has struggled at times this year, but we know it can be a very good, very top 10 penalty kill. And so when they're beating the penalty kill on this team, when they're going up against Lowry and Appleton and guys like that, and having success against it, I think they know at that point that they can do it against other teams, because when this penalty kill is at its best, we saw it last year, it's very good. So, yeah, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, like I said, it comes down to chaos and movement. Jets are executing both of those things right now, and it's working for them. And, whether they're scoring 2 goals or 1 goal, I mean, they're finding a way to also gain momentum off it too, which is one thing that Rick Bowness and Scott O'Neill obviously right now has said over and over again, is that, if they don't score, you still want to have that good feeling when the time runs out on the power play. And I think that's all those things are really just clicking right now for this team with the man advantage.
Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, live from Hamilton as we count down to the 110th Grey Cup on Sunday. I'm getting ready for 2 big home games, Friday night, Saturday night, Buffalo and Arizona in to take on the Winnipeg Jets. You mentioned the team was working on the power play today. Yesterday was a skills practice, which you don't have too often to do it. I mean, just give us a bit of an idea about what happened with the club yesterday and today, and anything interesting come out of Coach Scott O'Neill or any of the players that spoke today?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yesterday felt so like, if you've watched a practice before, and there'd be a lot of people in the chat that have watched the Jets practice before, one of the things that you see at the end of practice, they'll do a little stretch at center ice, and then they'll all kind of break off and do little things. And that's sort of what yesterday kind of felt like. It was really nonchalant. It was just a lot. I think there was a lot of fun for a lot of guys. There was no goalies. They did goalies first, and they were just kind of on their own. And then they did forwards for half an hour, and then defensemen for a half an hour. And so it was just working with, just little things, right? Just little things in space. Honestly, I think it was a bit of the team's been playing well. They have some time off. The one thing that this Jets team has been blessed with lately is just kind of a really good schedule, even though they are playing back-to-back this weekend. They're playing back-to-back at home, which is, you don't have to travel. You don't have to do anything like that. So that makes it easier. But yeah, yesterday was just very much, it was light, let's say, light. And then today it was back to business. And there wasn't, I think you could see in past Jets teams that if you had a practice like this, like the skill sort of thing, then the next day it might spill into that a little bit. Today was all business, and it was going. The guys were snapping around. It was very, let's say, professional in the way that they went about it. This team didn't look like it did yesterday, and it shouldn't have, right? Yesterday was very much a, fun, maybe, let's say, little thing. Not very hard working kind of practice. It was more, just work on some stick work and that sort of thing. Shoot at the shooter tutors, whatever, rebound control, that kind of thing. But today was very much back at it. Yeah, back at working on the power play, working on zone exits, and just working on the transition game, which the Jets have been great at this year. So, and then in the room today, Brad Lauer talked. Scott O'Neill didn't talk today. I think Alex Johnson-Fialbi talked, and so did Dylan Sandberg. I had a good chat. I'm going to be writing about Cole Perfetti later. One of the things, and maybe, Cole Perfetti is basically a point-per-game player right now, kind of doing it quietly because Kyle Connor is leading the league in goals, and Mark Scheifele's having a great season as well so far. Cole Perfetti, man, what a season he's having. Healthy, not taking those big hits anymore. I talked to him a little bit about that today, but more so just talked to him about, he said, like, it's such fine margins in hockey, Huss, and such fine margins in a lot of sports. And you talked to Cole today about, if you remember, and people remember the goal, not his goal, but the Nick Ehlers goal, and the way that Cole Perfetti made that pass. And Cole himself, I talked to him, like, nobody during that game thought that you were going to pass. Everybody thought he was going to shoot. And he's like, yeah, I thought I was going to shoot it too. but it's such a. He said last year that he would not have made that pass. He would have taken that shot, but he said in a split second, he's like, okay, I can look, but like there's nobody in front. The goalie's going to make an easy save here. But he said as soon as he looked up, like peripherally, he could see Ehlers, and it was just instinctual. Like at that point, he's like, the game slowed down for him. He said a hair, and the way that's helped him is just in that alone. Like last year, that hair of time where this game has slowed down from, he's gone from I would have just shot that puck to I made an incredible pass to set up Nikolai Ehlers for that goal. And it's so interesting, just to hear a player kind of talk about that sort of thing. So I'll have that a little later. But it's been an interesting couple days for the Jets. I think they're itching at playing. I think they want to play. I think players don't always enjoy practice. They would obviously rather play games, but I think they've handled it well. I mean, I think that's one thing that you could say, kind of looking at this team, the way they've handled some of this time off, rest. It's working for them, and they could easily have taken yesterday or today off. They didn't. They skated both days. This team's, it's different, Huss. It's different, and from just the room, from talking to the guys, the way they interact with us this year, everything's different. It's really it's a bit eye opening. It's obviously welcome. It's nice. It's nice to go in there now. It's nice to that guys are willing to talk and kind of open up about certain players or whatever. I give a lot of credit to the leadership on the team, especially Adam Lowry. I think it's changed quite a bit in terms of that. But this team's different, and I think we see it on the ice. I think we see the consistency in the game every night, even though they haven't won every single one of their games. And you look at maybe one or two games that maybe weren't exactly how they wanted to play, and then really we're talking about periods this year where they haven't played their game. We're not talking about the stretches of games anymore. There's a lot has changed in this team, both inside inside the room, watching that, and just the way that this team is playing on the ice. And I give a lot of credit to Adam Lowry on that one, and Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey too, because they're setting the tone for the rest of the team, and it's a good tone, us. And I think the way that I think you're seeing it, I think you see it every day from practice to the games to the way that they can conduct themselves. It's been quite a difference this year, and it's been nice to see. It's been nice to work in that environment.
I couldn't agree enough. And listen, I mean, Lowry has been everything that the Jets hope for in a captain and more. And I really think that he is the tone setter in that room. But I'm glad you brought up Morrissey and Scheifele. I mean, Morrissey quietly with the franchise tying 4 assists last game, finally getting some of that, a little bit of puck luck for a few things to go in. But the buy-in of Mark Scheifele, it cannot be understated how important that is. And you know what? We've been talking more about good back checks, and in some of these instances that he has shown just a greater level of engagement and commitment. And I think everyone is noticing that, as well as the guys in the room. And man, right now they are absolutely unstoppable on that top line. One other thing, we talked about the smiles around the room. Team put a lot of smiles on some youngsters' faces that are going through some tough times with the annual children's rehab visit yesterday. Guys, talk about that at all?
Not today, but a couple of guys spoke about it yesterday, and a lot of these guys have been through that. They've gone through it. It was interesting talking to Adam Lowry a little bit about it yesterday, talking about just it can be an emotional time, right? But one of the things that Adam said, and I think he's right, because I don't think he's right. It's not like I think he was lying or anything, but I think it does for these guys put a few things in perspective, right? You walk into these settings where the children's hospital. I think they went to 3 different places yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. It kind of brings you back down to whatever you want to call it, reality. Just like it's whether it's going well or not at the arena. Some days, guys come in, have a bad day at the arena. Not to take anything away from that, because we all go through crap, right? I mean, but you go into that sort of environment, and some of these kids they have it pretty tough right now, and I think it's good. I think it's good for the players. I think it kind of grounds a lot of people. It really kind of puts things in perspective. And that's something Adam Lowry said yesterday about it. And it could be emotional for guys too, right? I mean, there used to be times where I remember with Tyler Myers and what he went through with his child early on when his child was born, and you're just that it's not just families that are outside of hockey that go through these types of things. It's there are players, there are teammates and stuff like that have gone through this with their own children. So I think it's not even like the smiles that you always see on the kids' faces, right? You see a lot of the smiles on the Jets' faces too. I think it's just kind of it's a good moment. I think it's a good moment for the community. I think it really helps out. I mean, I can only imagine what it does for some of these kids that are dealing with unfathomable diseases or sicknesses, illnesses, that sort of thing, right? So yeah, it's a good thing. I'm glad the team do it. I know a lot of teams do this sort of thing, but you get to watch it. You see some of the pictures. I mean, you even saw Rasmus Kapari there yesterday, arm in a sling, just out for 4 to 6 weeks with a shoulder injury, but he's there too, taking part in it as well. So it's cool. I think it just brings a smile to kind of everybody's face, right?
Listen, I mean, it's a huge day for the kids and the staff and everybody down at Children's Rehab, but it is also something that I think, to your point, really resonates with the players as well, and I think makes them appreciate sometimes things that maybe get lost in the day-to-day grind of an 82-game season. Hey, listen, before we go, quickly, give me a game prediction and a final score. We're going to see who of all of our regulars nails this game the closest. Who you got?
See, I think the Bombers are going to have their way with Montreal. I'm going. I had it 38-17. That's 38-17 Bombers. It's well over whatever the betting odds are and that sort of thing. It's it's what, 2 touchdowns, a little bit over that, I think. So no, 1.5, 10 points, whatever. Anyways. 19 points, I think. If my
comfortable
math is
right. A comfortable cover, 38-17.
I think so, yeah. I like I said earlier, I think this team is ready, and they just want that kickoff to happen on Sunday at I believe it's 5 our time here. So I think they're ready to go.
Well, we're going to chop it up with Derek Taylor coming up in a couple of minutes. Billeck, have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to keeping tabs on the Jets from Hamilton and the Winnipeg Sun with all of your work on these big Friday and Saturday night games. And of course, you got Ted, you got Freezer here with all the action from the Hammer for Winnipeg Sun readers. Thanks for doing this, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Huss. Enjoy the rest of your time out there. It's going to be good.
Good stuff. We are going to get back to the Bombers in the Grey Cup in just a minute. Derek Taylor's going to join us in about 10 minutes or so. But we've got a real fun conversation with the Aussie punter of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. His first visit on Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up in just a second. Before we do that, though, a big thanks to Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And, of course, the Bombers hosting Bomber fans at the Princess Auto tailgate party before Blue Bomber games at IG Field all season long. Can't wait to get back there for the 2024 season. But first things first, time to win another ring for the Blue Bombers on Sunday. Of course, Princess Auto, in addition to supporting the blue and gold and WST, is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them at one of 2 Winnipeg locations, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. You got your blues ready for Sunday? Listen, if you're looking to add a little Bomber gear to the rotation just in time to wear it on Sunday, get on down to Royal Sports. Great selection of Bomber gear, including plenty of exclusives that you will not find anywhere else. And while you're there getting ready for the Grey Cup, you can maybe add to your Jets collection, because Royal Sports is the place with the biggest selection of Jets gear around as well. Thousands of pieces of merchandise, including many exclusives. And heck, while you're there, why don't you just take care of all your holiday shopping? NFL, Major League Baseball, Raptors and NBA, international soccer, literally anything for a sports fan is available at Royal Sports. And of course, hockey season's in full swing, and no one can forget that they are for 40 years the family-owned, undisputed hockey superstore in Winnipeg. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Give them a follow on Instagram as well, at Royal Sports Pembina, heading into the holidays for the latest merchandise drops, gift ideas, and sale information. And hey, as we get ready for Sunday, Boston Pizza, official sponsor of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, is ready to host Bomber fans for the official Bomber Grey Cup viewing party presented by Coors Light at BP Kenaston. You'll have a chance to win Blue Bomber prize packs all game. Enjoy happy hour special all night and all of your BP favorites, Blue Bomber mascots, the BP prize wheel, and more. If you'd like to book a table for your group at Boston Pizza, Kenaston, give them a phone call, 204-925-4103 to book your table. Come early and get loud. And, of course, if you can't make it to BP Kenaston, you can watch the game on the big screens at your nearest Boston Pizza location in Winnipeg, Steinbach, Morden, and Portage with those same great happy hour specials in Coors Light all game long. And, hey, if you are staying at home, any large or media gourmet pizza from Boston Pizza, you'll get a second for 50% off, or check out that amazing BP Game Day meal with the triple order of my favorite wings anywhere, world-famous BP wings, and a medium or 2 large gourmet pizzas, 925-4111 to get ready for game day. And you can also order at bostonpizza.com. All right, Derek Taylor coming up in a few minutes. But wanted to get this right to you. We've been waiting for a while to catch up with Jamieson Sheahan, the Aussie punter, and one of very few rookies making their first Grey Cup appearance. Got a chance to catch up with him today at Tim Hortons Field after practice to talk about his first year north of the border, how the heck he came all the way from Australia to Winnipeg, and some special guests that came in to watch him do his thing in the West Final that'll be back for the Grey Cup. Here's our convo with Jamieson Sheahan from earlier today.
It is a real pleasure for the first time to welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Bomber punter Jamieson Sheahan. Jamieson, great to meet you. First of all, how are you?
I'm great. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It doesn't get much better than that Grey Cup week, but what a year and an experience for you is. I'm just going to ask you before we talk about the game and what's coming up on Sunday. What's your year being in Canada, playing 3-down football and being a Blue Bomber been like?
It's been a great experience, to be honest. It exceeded all my expectations of everything. And, I was playing American football in Cal, and obviously the CFL is a totally different game. So there was adjustments and learning early on, and just really finding my feet. And then I got really comfortable, and the team is fantastic. The locker room is fantastic. So felt super welcomed and really learnt the game quickly, and found my feet pretty well. And now I feel really comfortable at the level, and it's been super exciting.
I've been wanting to ask you this question all year. Take us back to growing up in Australia. What were you playing, and when did American football, Canadian football even come on your radar?
Well, that was really recently, but we'll go back. So I played Australian football, which is its own...
Like Aussie rules?
Yeah,
like
Aussie rules. Okay. Aussie rules. So sometimes on TSN, sometimes...
Hey, shout out to the Sydney Swans, Essendon Bombers.
Essendon Bombers is my team.
Nice.
So I actually played for the Bombers.
How appropriate.
I know. So this is my second Bombers team that I've played for now. So, I grew up playing, as you do, from 6, 7 years old until I was 20 years of age. I was a pretty good junior player, nearly made it to the league. I was playing in the minor leagues, and then decided at about, I think, 20 to give American punting a go. There's a program called Pro Kick Australia. They take Aussie football players, turn them into punters. And so I did that for 12 months and got a scholarship to Cal. Spent 3 years at Cal, which was a great experience, and then found myself...
Australia to California.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a little different than coming here to Winnipeg, especially in winter.
So it was normal to normal, and then got drafted 8th overall in the global draft to the Bombers, and found my way up to Winnipeg, is what I've heard. So
yeah, well, you just wait. Wait. We'll see what it's like.
I had a little taste of the snow, but I think we got lucky last week in the West Final. It was pretty mild, so I'm looking forward to it getting real cold.
Well, you mentioned, kind of that 12 months of training in this program, and then being picked in the global draft. I mean, even when you were kicking down in Cal, when you're playing American football 4 downs, did you know much about the Canadian Football League at all? Did you know about the global draft? I mean,
Honestly, there was a couple of Aussies that had already been up here. Joe Zima, actually, who we're playing this weekend at Montreal, he's been up here for a few years now. And we already had some guys sort of established up here, so I knew of it. And I wanted to play professional football, so I obviously knew that that was a possibility if, the things in the NFL didn't work out. So the opportunity came up to come up here, and I knew a little bit about it. I reached out to the Aussies that were already up here, and they said it's an absolute blast. So been loving every minute so far.
How, considering you spent 3 years at the NCAA at a real high level punting, special teams, the nature of the Canadian game is quite different. How would you compare the job of a punter here north of the border as to what you did at Cal?
Well, they definitely care about you more up here, which is nice. So special teams is a big part of the game.
Absolutely.
I love it. I'm more involved than ever before, and obviously I hold as well for field goal for Sergio, so find myself out there quite a bit, and it's great because although we are very good, so I don't punt as much as some other guys, which has been different because at Cal I punted a lot, but it's really nice to be wanted and to be an important part of the machine that is Winnipeg football. You,
one of the things that's been pretty clear watching you perform all year long is that I like to say you got many clubs in your bag, if you will. There's all sorts of different kicks, which is not something that we have traditionally seen in the Canadian Football League or really in North America. Explain to us, do you decide on that? Do you work with the special teams? Like, hey, we need the low riser, we need the knuckler, or is that all just yourself evaluating the defense or the return team and trying to keep it away from guys?
I am a big golf fan myself, so when you said the golf clubs, that works well for me. I do have a large set of golf clubs, so and it does depend on what they're giving us on the other side of the ball. It also depends, the conditions, whether it's wind, rain, snow, whatever's happening. So it's nice to have that variety to be able to change the club whenever you see fit. So I work with the special teams coordinator. We come up with a plan and change it up each week, and you never know what club's coming out.
Part of Grey Cup week, and Bombers, this team is sort of like a family, but it's huge for families as well. And, there's a lot of guys that live down south. It's a lot further to go halfway around the world. Your folks and your family got up here for the West Final in Winnipeg.
They did.
How did they enjoy themselves, and what was that like for you, letting them see you punt for the first time?
It was awesome. I think it took them 30 hours to get here from Melbourne to when they landed in Winnipeg. So, they're catching up on sleep still. But they loved the West Final. Obviously, it was a great day for the Bombers. And, their voices were gone the next morning, so they were obviously cheering pretty loud. And they've seen me play at Cal, but to see me play professionally is, they've always been my biggest supporters. And to see me play professional sport was pretty special for Mum and Dad. So they got up here, and my partner Olivia, she's always at the game. So the three of them were cheering in the crowd, and had a flexible ticket for him just in case we were coming to Hamilton. So they actually got in here yesterday, and they're going to be here for the Grey Cup, so it's pretty special.
Well, it all comes down to Sunday, and you kind of mentioned before, special teams is a huge part of the Canadian game. How do you look at the challenge of being your best, the team being at their best, and finishing the job that you started out as teammates in training camp?
It's just really exciting, to be honest. It's a great opportunity, right? I'm not underestimating what it means to be in my rookie year and to be in a Grey Cup. Like, I'm really grateful for that opportunity. I landed on a terrific team, like you said, a family team, and just super excited for the opportunity. Got family in the stands, got family on the sidelines with me, and it's going to be a great day, and I think I can have a big impact on the game. As you said, special teams, it'll probably come down to special teams, always kind of does. So we'll be on our A game. We've had a great week of practice so far, and ready to be to show up on the big stage.
Just thinking about this, you must be a part of a very small group of Bombers playing in your first Grey Cup. Yeah,
well, 4 years in a row, all right? So the guys have been here and done that, but there's a few of us rookies obviously this year, and guys that have come to the team from elsewhere that in their first Grey Cup, and the leaders on the team have done a really good job of making sure that there's expectations set. Like, we know what's going on every day, and we know the expectation that's set on us. So we just jumped on board. These guys have been doing it for a few years, and it's nice to jump on for this fourth one.
It truly is a professional operation at every level. Just before we go, how would you describe the feeling of the team, the focus right now, knowing that it all comes down to 3 hours of football here at Tim Hortons Field on Sunday?
there's just an air of quiet confidence, focus. The guys, the feeling in the hotel at practice is calm, focused, and just really excited. Like there's this, like, we've been here, we know what to do, we know what we have to do to achieve the result on the weekend, and we're just going to go about doing that. So it's been great to be a part of and learning from the leaders and the older guys in the room, and can't wait to be out here on Sunday.
Jamieson, Sheahan, this has been an absolute pleasure. Good luck on Sunday, and go get that ring.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. Appreciate it.
There we go. We're back. Good stuff. That was a really, really fun interview with Jamieson Sheahan, the Bomber punter. I'm hoping that he doesn't have to look at DT. I'm hoping he doesn't have to do too much punting. But again, special teams always a huge part of the 3-down game. So we'll see what happens. As I said, we're gonna chop it up here with Derek Taylor of the radio voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on your home of the blue and gold, CJOB. Just a minute. But folks, if you're getting ready for your Grey Cup party, let's do this in style. It's one of the biggest sports days of the year. Let's make it the best. And that means Winnipeg's finest little brown jug. If you're looking, my personal favorite is generic lager. As a longtime sort of, domestic light beer drinker, absolutely love it. 8 packs, Tall Boys, $19.99. That's not even on sale. It's the regular price. You can find that at your local beer store. But mix in some 1919, maybe some honey brown ale. I would suggest popping by the brewery and tap room, maybe trying a few and getting your favorites. But you can pick up Little Brown Jug wherever you find great beer. And for those of you that are going to be tipping a couple tomorrow or Saturday night at Canada Life Center when the Jets take on the Sabres and the Coyotes, make sure to pop by the new Craft Beer Corner, section 126 in the lower bowl, right where the old Moxies used to be. And upstairs, Craft Beer Corner, section 310. That's where you'll find 1919 generic and all the other great local beers waiting for you at Canada Life Center. Find out more online, littlebrownjug.ca. And follow them on their socials for the latest on events coming in, including sometimes to put the big games on, both for the Bombers and the Winnipeg Jets down at Little Brown Jug. And a big shout out to our friends at Nick and Nicky DQ. Of course, they've got the 3 DQs. Maybe there's still time for you to jump on, and maybe you're not looking at beer as much for your party, but how about a Blue Bomber-themed ice cream Grey cupcake? Nick and Nicky can help you out with that at DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and, of course, the DQ out in Niverville. And while we're mentioning Niverville, maybe a little Pita Pit catering for the Grey Cup party. Nick and Nicky will cater Pita Pit throughout the city of Winnipeg for all sorts of events, catering, school lunches, birthday parties. If you want Pita Pit, healthy, fresh, delicious, fast, Nick and Nicky can help you out that as well. Pop by and see him in Niverville, or just hit him up on Twitter or X, as Michael Backlund said last night in that hilarious clip after the Flames game, at Pita Pit Niverville on Twitter or on Instagram. All right, let's welcome in DT. Come on over here.
I'm doing a Collinsworth slide.
Yes.
Except this doesn't have wheels, so here we are.
Not quite as smooth, but we'll take it. Great to see you, and thanks for coming on. How are you feeling right now? Big week. You've been here. Did you get here yesterday as well?
You flew in last night, yeah. Just in time for the Dave Naylor party, which always a good time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm all hands on deck for the home of the Bombers here. I saw GMAC here, yourself. Going to be a fun few days with the Bombers in the big game.
Yeah, we got Saturday show and Sunday show, a little Saturday afternoon look at the Grey Cup, and Sunday pregame show and then postgame show. Fingers crossed, celebrating a 3rd Grey Cup in 4 years, and hopefully by 23 or so points, something like that.
I'm sort of with you on that right now. And I mean, as I say, my nerves are more in just how bloody confident I am that this team goes out and gets it done. Like, it is very hard, Derek, for me, knowing what this team is made of, what they've been through, what's got them here, the loss last year in the Grey Cup. Heck, the 2 pick sixes that Zach Caleros threw in the regular season against Montreal in a 30-point win. Like, I think they've sort of emptied those things out. Like, I mean, how do the Alouettes win this game?
many freak occurrences, right? Last week it was 9 turnovers by the Toronto Argonauts. That's maybe it doesn't have to be that level every week, but it's got to be something like that. Montreal gets a ton of credit for its defense, right? Oh, its defense is so potent. And what we mean by that is their defense scored 8 touchdowns this year and then a couple more last week. Okay, Winnipeg's defense on a per-play basis is better than the thing that people are touting about Montreal. They don't score as many touchdowns, but they're better. And then the offense, they're not even in the same stratosphere on offense, right? Montreal is, 7th in points per game. Winnipeg is number 1, well over 30 points, crushing teams left and right. The 5 highest scoring games in the CFL this year, all the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, one of them tied with Toronto. They can win games with defense and special teams, and they can win games with the run game and the pass game, and it's going to take some weird stuff for Montreal. What does Montreal do if Winnipeg gets up 14-0? Like, put Dequoy on offense? Like, is that the play?
Listen, I mean, I don't really have an answer other than lose and watch the Bombers celebrate at the end of 4 quarters. Like, I mean, I guess I would even be surprised if this game is tight, like going into the half. That being said, I mean, listen, you have to respect your opponent. It is sports. That is why they play the games.
Well, they have to respect their opponent. We can say whatever we want on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Come on.
I mean, hey, but listen, I mean, I do have a hard time. I mean, looking at past the victory for the Alouettes that don't include just an absolute meltdown on the part of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And I don't see that happening. And listen, you're around this team every single day, all year long, covering the Bombers for CJOB and obviously calling the games. This has been a mission, an unfinished business tour, basically from the first day of training camp. They mapped it out. They achieved the playoff spot that they wanted. They won the game, and now they're here. And, I mean, this seems to be exactly as everything was mapped out. It's a very different story for Montreal. And talking to some people behind the scenes with the Alouettes, I mean, they weren't really planning on coming to Hamilton until about 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. And you know how much goes into planning for a championship week and how different this is. I mean, I think on top of it all, that's another real challenge for Montreal to really focus and allow their players to focus on the stuff that really matters and maybe not get caught up in a lot of the things that come with, a big upset win like they had against the Argos.
Well, it's their first one, right? And Winnipeg is now here for 4 in a row, and they're used to, we got to do this, and Brady's got to take care of the awards on Thursday night, and For Montreal, it's all brand new. And I mean, this whole year has been it had to be so emotional for any guy who was on the roster on February 14th, right? Because, hey, we don't have an owner and we can't really go get anybody in free agency. Oh, Fajardo, okay, cool. We got Greg Ellingson, good. We don't have – I did not think Montreal was a good roster going into this season. And it's incredible what they've been able to do. They get an owner in March. They get that part all settled out. And then they just keep beating everybody below them in the standings and getting whacked by everybody above them in the standings. But that got you to 11 wins. I don't know. I took a healthy share of Montreal unders to start the season in the futures. And I thought, okay, this is a 4-win football team. So full credit to them. I guess the thing I kind of come to is how often have we seen the story where, oh my gosh, the incredible upset, the underdog takes down the behemoth and everything's great. And then the next week, it's just not there because how could it possibly be? And how could you possibly replicate the improbable circumstances under which you won the previous week, right? Oh, hey, TCU gets to the national championship game and then gets just wasted, right? I just wonder. And then position by position, is there any spot where you'd rather have Montreal than Winnipeg?
No.
Maybe in the defensive backfield, but that's close. Other than that, give me Gauthier and Wilson at linebacker. That one's close too because Sankey's doing some stuff. Defensive line, Bombers. Offensive line, Bombers. Receivers, Bombers. Running back, come on.
Well, I mean, listen, to me, you can basically start it off. If you're saying Bombers offensive line, Bombers defensive line, that's where these games more often than not are really determined. We certainly saw that last Saturday against the BC Lions. And, I mean, the thing is the Bombers can win this game in so many different ways. As I say, I mean, the path to victory for the Alouettes is very small, and probably involves a few acts of God, if you ask me.
Honestly, I was trying to concoct what would I do when I think we kind of thought Montreal would be, more run focused this year, but William Stanback, Walter Fletcher, Jeshua Antwi haven't had the opportunities, haven't produced. Okay, well, that's not a thing. They don't use Cody Fajardo a ton in the run game. I think he's number 3 in quarterbacks rushing this season. He has the potential to do some more. So I kind of come down to, is it strictly Austin Mack has to win 100% of his YOLO balls down the sideline? 4 receivers to the field.
YOLO balls,
love it. 1 to the boundary. Try to get him hooked up on DeMario Houston or Jamal Parker and hammered up to Austin Mack, and hopefully that early season jump ball success they had, they can go 4 for 4, when he pulls out 135 yards, and that makes all the difference, because I just don't see the play-to-play. People will say Fajardo completed 70% of his passes. Sure, but the second lowest depth of target, and he probably, if I had to do his expected completion, it probably should have been 74, 75. So how good was he really in this? And then, oh, by the way, have you talked to your show at all about the fact that Winnipeg had 9 sacks of Vernon Adams last week, and Cody Fajardo takes sacks like few other quarterbacks in the CFL? Think that might weigh into this one too? Oh, my gosh.
Well, speaking of Fajardo, 0-9 lifetime against Caleros, terrorized by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for pretty much his entire CFL career. I feel good for him for having a season in which, he moved past the Saskatchewan era and played quite well and made it to the playoffs and got that big win. But as great as that win was, and as happy as he was, he went to bed after watching what happened to Vernon Adams, probably going, good Lord, I got to face these guys again. And listen, I'm kind of saying tongue-in-cheek. He's a competitor. He's a pro athlete. Obviously, they want to be here, and he wants another crack at it. But maybe the bad news is he's going to get it, and they're going to get it back at him. Hey, I brought this up earlier this week on the show. I'm glad you're here because I want to ask you, who has a great pulse of Rider Nation, being the former voice of the Riders. Rider fan. Would they rather see Cody Fajardo and Jason Moss
this is going to be good.
Basically be scapegoats for a terrible season, get sent packing, show up in Montreal, take a team to the Grey Cup, and author one of the great upsets in Grey Cup history? Or would they rather see the Bombers put an exclamation mark on a dynasty in the Canadian Football League? Where's Rider fan at right now?
That's close, right? Because a lot of the, if you go on Rider fans, the great message board, you see a lot of, really? We let these 2 guys go, Fajardo and Moss, and now they're in the Grey Cup? This is another example of ineptitude. But I feel like they would want bad things to happen to the Bombers more, just because
I do too.
It's the Bombers. I think that's the way I go. Ultimately, I feel like we need to be happy for Cody Fajardo. Jason Moss, oh yeah, you're the problem. Get out. Okay, well, Montreal, I'm the head coach, and now we're in the Grey Cup. I feel like you got to feel happy for Fajardo, who was a kind of a world beater in 2019, and it looked like everything was going to go his way, and then 21, 22, 23, 21, 22 in Sask, it regressed quite a bit. Couldn't hit the deep ball as much. Saskatchewan offensive this and that. 23 was 14 touchdowns and 12 picks, something like that. It's not the most explosive offense, but it's, I don't know, it's like, it's managing enough, and hey, we have enough of it as a team to get over the hump. I mean, they were distinctly that second tier, right, in this Canadian Football League season. It was stark. The 11-0, 0-7 thing is something I will not forget anytime soon.
Saskatchewan is, it's such a great CFL market. The games have massive ratings. I do wonder if there'll be a section of the Rider fan base that just cannot bear to watch this game on Sunday, which is saying something. And as Earl James just said, Rider fans would rather see a horse auction. Rider fans would rather watch a
what kind of horses are we talking about here?
And I'm sort of with you too. I mean, I don't think the Rider fan, wants to deal.
I wouldn't mind a corner gas marathon,
right
Earl
there.
James. I love corner gas. My wife took me there. I'm like, I'm in Rollo, Saskatchewan. That's where it used to be. We went by Oscar and what's her name's house? Awesome, good stuff.
Brent Budd often actually shows up in and around Grey Cup week. I wonder if he'll be here. And hey, Rider fans will be here. We'll get a chance to, I'm sure, mingle with some over the course of the festivities the next few days. Hey, listen, before we get to the weekend, though, tonight, player awards. You maybe as well as anybody in the market and frankly in the country, do such a great job of following not just the team that you cover, but everybody else in the league. We've got some Bombers up for awards. How do you see this going tonight? I mean, maybe predictions on the awards, not necessarily who you think should win, because as we know, there is Bomber fatigue out there, and that's a real thing.
I 100% with you. It's a real thing. Ultimately, I think they're going to take home one of the awards. I think Ryan Dinwiddie gets Coach of the Year because Toronto's 5 wins better than last year. 16-2, only the second time that's ever been done. And that was an offense that I didn't think was loaded at receiver. And, man, they've been really good. So Ryan Dinwiddie, Coach of the Year. Special teams, I think it goes Javon Leake, though I was on my soapbox for Sean White having the best kicking season I think we've seen in the CFL. Lineman, I think it goes Dejon Allen of Toronto. Jamarcus Hardrick is a guy who needs a lot of love. And
I'd love to see him win that award.
Can you imagine his speech? It would be so awesome. He is just so happy to be alive. And I think it's cool that we got 2 right tackles nominated this year. Rookie of the Year, Qantas Stiggers of Toronto was awesome. And kiss him goodbye because I feel like he's in the NFL next year. What do we got? Defensive player, it's got to be Matthew Betts. 18 sacks. Nobody's done that since John Bowman. That's too much to overcome. Most outstanding player is going to be Chad Kelly. I voted Chad Kelly. His passing numbers aren't going to blow the doors off, and when we look back historically, we'll go, oh, really? Henry Burris won this with 5,600 yards, and this guy won it with 4,100 yards and 21 touchdowns, whatever it is. They don't blow you off the doors.
You voted for Chad Kelly?
I did.
This is an outrage.
He led that team to a lot of touchdowns with an under
over a bunch of bad teams. Let me remind you, they played one game against BC and they didn't even show up, and he didn't show up for that game against Winnipeg. So Montreal was 11-0 against those teams. And then they went and played 7 other games against good teams, and what happened to them? I don't know. I
would have voted for Zach Collars. Let's not get. I didn't get the option to vote for Zach Collars for MOP, but I probably would have gone Zach for MOP. Most outstanding Canadian, Brady Oliveira.
Lock of the year.
I think that's the one that they get. That said, Marc-Antoine Dequoy should win one of those awards in his career. He is phenomenal. He runs all the way across the formation to rip that ball away from Ungerer this past week in the Eastern Final. Just reading Chad Kelly's mail. This guy can play ball. So I feel bad for him, but it's going to be Mr. 2000 taking that one home.
We've had a lot of fun. We had Scooch, Joe Pascucci, on the show yesterday.
Scooch!
Just talking to him about the historical significance of this era of Blue Bomber football. And I mean, nobody's more of a historian, if you will, of the CFL and certainly Winnipeg sports than Joe. But then we also got into talking about the special season that Brady Oliveira had. And I mean, it's certainly, we all focus, it's football. The quarterback is the position. We often focus so much on it, but 2,000 yards is an incredible performance. And when you look back at, the incredible running backs that have played for this team, this season stands right up there with the greatest in Bomber history.
Yeah, the one thing I keep going back to is we talk about it's the first one since John Cornish, right? First 2,000 yard since John Cornish. When you look at Cornish's career and you go, 4 times that guy was over 7 yards a carry, that is insane. Brady Oliveira, 5.9 yards per carry. So some of it is his outstandingness came from the volume he was able to take, right? He had more carries than anybody in the league. They were one of, I think, 3 teams that really were a one-back team. Even teams like Edmonton with a great back like Kevin Brown go to Shannon Brooks specifically in certain situations and for drives. But Brady carries the load like James Butler and Hamilton, like Taquan Mizell with his 5 carries a game, whatever. BC doesn't care about running the football. But it's you have to be a special back to be a workhorse back in the CFL because so many teams just don't use one guy. But Brady's there on running downs, on passing downs, on third down, closing the game. Oh, you need me to leak out of the backfield? I got you. Oh, blitzer coming late? I got that guy too. He is special, but we are voting for volume because there's 7 yards a carry and then there's just under 6 yards a carry. Cornish's seasons were bonkers. They, especially now in perspective, they look nuts. Like, I don't know what was wrong with the CFL in 2013, But man, that Cornish and that Calgary offense were something special.
Well, and the Calgary teams, I mean, were borderline dynastic, except for the fact that they always came up short in either the West Final or the Grey Cup when they frankly should have won. That is not the case for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and certainly they lost that game last year by a point. I think that is very much I wouldn't say on the minds of them all, but they won't forget the lessons learned, and that's a big reason why I think we both like the Bombers potentially big on Sunday. We talked about Brady Oliveira and the way the Bombers came out against BC, and that was establishing dominance on the line of scrimmage over and over and over again. Wasn't as much in the second half, but early on. Do you think that's the way the Bombers begin as well this week, or might they be maybe a little more pass-heavy early to really get Zach in the game as opposed to kind of just relying on beating it down on the line of scrimmage and giving it to Brady the way they did against BC?
Yeah, I feel like if they end up with the ball on the opening drive of the game, the first play is Brady, and then the second play is judged based on Brady, right? If he gets 3 yards, okay, it's 2nd and 7, and Zach's got to pull something out here. And then you just roll with whatever's hot. That's, as you watch this team, you go, I really believe them when they say, we don't care how we win, right? It doesn't have to be Brady going for 120. It doesn't have to be Zach throwing for 389. It'll just be, okay, if this is working, we're going to keep rolling with this. You remember early in the season, like they're putting up 40 and 40 in the opening 2 games and 50 on BC and then 51 on Sask, and you go, oh, they had 6 touchdowns in that Banjo Bowl game on 6 drives in the first half with a lot of the pass game. So I honestly believe them when they say, we don't really care. We're going to do whatever's working. And if Montreal can't cover Kenny Lawler, you're going to get 200 yards of Kenny Lawler. And if they can't cover Nick Dembski on the corner route, you're going to get Nick Dembski on the corner route. And if Brady has to take kind of a back seat and get, what did he have, 67 in a couple games against BC in the regular season, I think they're just fine with that. I think the smart money is that Brady dominates, right? Darnell Sankey's a new element in the middle of that Montreal defense for this matchup. But if Darnell Sankey's going to get caught up in the Chris Kolinkowski, Patty Neufeld, Jeff Gray wash, it's not going to matter much. Here's 9 yards for contact, and Brady's at 100 partway through the third quarter.
DT, you are no stranger to maybe making the odd sprinkle. Have you taken a look at Grey Cup props at all yet? And do you have any thoughts? Does anything stand out to you? And maybe some Bomber touchdown scorers, if you want to touch on that as well.
So what we've seen at practice and today was Nick Dembski was there, but he didn't have his helmet on. He was going through the motions at that third receiver slot to the field side, but he wasn't going full speed or anything. So you look at, I gravitate more to catch props than yardage props. So you look at Nick Dembski, 4.5 receptions. That might be a place I might take a little under. Just because, not that Dembski's bad in any way, but he might be a little limited by that ankle problem. So 5 catches sounds like a lot. Maybe I take a little under. And then if you work on that theory, well, who's going to get the catches then if Nick Dembski doesn't? And if Rasheed Bailey's nicked up, well, then I gravitate to, there's plus money on Kenny Lawler being over 5.5 catches. Oh, and he did make that ridiculous grab last week. And
that catch was insane.
Right? So Dembski under 4.5 was plus money, and Lawler over 5.5 was plus money. And I think those two are perfect. I think those two perfectly align. Brady, it's tough because his number, I saw a 92 for Brady. Ooh. That's a big number, and he could easily hit it, but that's a big number. And Zach was in the 270s, but his high game against Montreal this year, I think, is 240. So those are ones I kind of stay away from. Touchdown scores, you're not going to get any real good price. I haven't seen them.
That's true.
You're not going to get a good price on Prukop. You're not going to get a good price on Brady. You're not going to.
Wolodarski, maybe. He always seems
Wally,
to be a guy that sneaks in, grabs one.
What's Bolo's price? And then, I wonder about defense and special teams for the Bombers getting a touchdown. What that number would be, because Fajardo's going to flutter one out wide, and here goes Evan home for the score.
I'm going to have to talk to the guys in the lock shop. I want a sack prop. I want to take the over.
7.5. 7.5, and even if they go to Caleb Evans, you're like, that's going to be more. Roughly 7.5. The over is minus 115. You want the over. You want the.
I'm still taking it.
Yeah.
I'm still taking it.
They're vicious.
Shout out to all caps Kyle with the super chat. Tell DT to rescind his vote. Can you call them up right now and just abstain on Chad Kelly tonight? Although, to be honest with you, this would be perfectly Blue Bombers to have Brady not win the award and the entire team goes into the game with a massive chip on their shoulder because of the disrespect shown there, Mr. 2K.
Kyle, just because you're in gold here, I will tell you, oddly enough, Brady was my most outstanding player vote from the West, but he was not my most outstanding Canadian in the West. Ooh.
That was Betts?
It was Betts. Betts' season was silly. 18 sacks, plus I had him with a couple more from early season. It was a monster year, although we didn't see too much of Mr. Betts when he had to go up against the Blue Bombers on Saturday. That is an incredible turn, right? So dominant in that first game, and then I don't remember him in the next 3 games. Like, that is a testament to good coaching and to players who went, you know what? We took it on the chops that day. We're not taking it on the chops anymore. Like, remember 21 weeks ago, we were like, is this team old? Did they get old? We have not asked those questions in 4 or 5 months now. It's amazing what week 3 was to what week 24 will be.
There's a quiet confidence about this team. They're ready to go. And I got a chance to talk to Nick actually today after practice, and he seems to be feeling good. They're gonna probably do exactly what they did last week and kind of ease him into it, and then. There's no next week, so leaving it on the line. Are you holding on any hope for either Dalton Schoen or Adam Big Hill on Sunday?
None at all.
Yeah.
No, I can't imagine Schoen. I can't imagine Big Hill. And yeah, how they spelled Dembski with Johnny Augustine last week saved Dembski a couple of hits. Smart and maximize him. Running that corner route to the field, and bang, he can make a couple of big impact plays, and he doesn't have to take a carries at running back because Augustine can. Beautiful. The other 3 guys I 100% based on what we saw at practice, Rashid, Kyrie Wilson, and Jackson Jeffcoat looked like he practiced full today, so 0 concerns about those other 4 guys.
For Bomber fans that can't get enough Blue Bomber content, you and GMAC are here. I know it's a busy week on OB. Lay out when you guys are going to be on and what you guys are going to be bringing back to Bomber fans in the peg.
Yeah, so we got our reports every morning and every afternoon at 25 past. Saturday, we'll have our Grey Cup special from 2 until 4. And then Sunday from 3 until 5, we'll have our Grey Cup pregame show. And then the second they're done, Kelly Moore and Doug Brown will be live in the studio post game, and Greg Mackling and I will be feeding back audio from Victorious Locker Room.
Fingers crossed.
Victorious Locker Room. And then we'll jump in for all your analysis and texts and calls on CJOB. So super excited to cover a Grey Cup. This is year 4 for me doing play-by-play. West final loss off the crossbar. West final loss. Winnipeg was way too good. Grey Cup loss last year. Darn you, Enoch Mwamba, with those tremendous play. And now this year, let's get one. Let's get one for DT.
You know, as they say, and it's great to see you here. Obviously, it's unfortunate that the rules are what they are and the local broadcasters cannot cover the teams. And we went through this with Bob Irving, of all people, a few years ago. Obviously, our pal Dustin Nielsen, I'm sure, will do a great job doing it.
Oh, and Marsh on analysis?
We'll have the game.
Marshall Ferguson doing color? Awesome.
Listen,
Can't wait.
I think that those 2 dudes in a year or 2 we're probably going to be the team for the guy. Although Marsh does a good job on play-by-play, but his quarterback mind is such a perfect complement to a play-by-play guy like Dusty, who has a lot of fun and gets pretty excited. But as I say, there should be a caveat for home teams, for the teams that are in it, to have the guys that have been calling it to their fans all year doing it. But that being said, we'll get a lot of DT and a lot of Blue Bomber coverage on OB all weekend long. Have a great weekend, my friend. And,
thank you, brother.
Hopefully we'll be rubbing shoulders and dodging champagne bottles after the game on Sunday.
That'll be all right. Kenny Lawler will tell us more about the city of Edmonton once he's got a third Grey Cup ring.
Just quickly before you go, you asked a very innocuous question to Kenny earlier today, and he dropped a
absolute scud at the Elks organization.
Yeah, talking to Kenny Lawler, he didn't love his year in Edmonton. He said, I did it for the money. I went for the money. So I asked him today at his availability some questions about how much happier he is this year over last year. And I said, can I throw a hypothetical at you? If a guy's going to free agency this year, what advice would you have for him? I thought he'd be like, oh, you know what? Don't just follow the money. Think about where you'll be the happiest. Grass isn't always greener, la, 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 la. I was going for that kind of stuff. No. When I say, do you have any advice for anybody going to free agency? He's like, yeah, don't go to Edmonton. And then you could hear Zach Collaros to his side giggling and going, you just made a lot of work for Darren Cameron, our media guy, right? You know what you just did. Man, people in Edmonton, if you're watching, I wasn't setting him up for that. I'm super happy he said it because people don't say stuff like that, but yeah, don't go to Edmonton.
A juicy quote as well. I'm sure that can be bulletin board next year, but right now, Edmonton isn't here. It's Winnipeg and Montreal. Grey Cup 110. Bombers looking to make some history. Derek, have a great weekend, and thanks again for doing this, buddy.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Good stuff. There is the man himself, Derek Taylor, who will be kicking up a whole ton of Blue Bomber coverage, along with Greg Mackling throughout the weekend. And don't forget, extended pregame show on OB, as well as a full postgame that hopefully will involve plenty of calls from excited Bomber fans after the job is done. All right, let's get Remo in here. And before we go, we do need to get out because we got to get this podcast up. Let me get to the Coolbet lines right now. And, we're here. Jake's sending them all over to me. Grey Cup, basically where we've been at. 8.5 points. Bombers favored. -112 on that. And the total on the game is 45.5. We've got another football game tonight, which I'm actually really looking forward to watching. AFC North battle between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. The game is in Baltimore. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites. I'm all over the Bengals. I know they lost last week at home to the Texans. That was a tough loss. C.J. Stroud, what a stud he is. I think we get the best of Joe Burrow. They desperately need this game tonight. I think they get it. I definitely think they keep it close. I'm taking the Bengals plus the points. Check the Coolbet exclusives. I like Joe Burrow over 1.5 touchdowns as well, passing. And I know that the guys cooked up something in the exclusives if you want to get on that for the lock shop. Thanks again to Pat and Jake for taking care of business today while Dusty and I have been running around Hamilton getting ready for the Grey Cup. We do have some hockey tonight. Let's get to the lines. We got the Coyotes in Columbus. Arizona, road favorite. You don't see that too often, although you probably should this year. This is actually a pretty good hockey team, certainly in the past. But the Coyotes -125. Blue Jackets +107. The Habs are hosting the Vegas Golden Knights coming off that 3-0 loss in Washington. Vegas -206 favorites. The Habs +123. And the Pittsburgh Penguins at home to the banged-up New Jersey Devils. Pittsburgh is a -145 favorite to the New Jersey Devils, who are +123. Pretty big night tonight. We got the Tampa Bay Lightning -181 favorites in Chicago against the Blackhawks. Hawks +153. Vancouver and Calgary going at it. Vancouver off that big OT win last night against their old pal Bo Horvat. +123 for the Canucks, -145 for the Calgary Flames. Islanders playing the second end of back-to-backs. They're in Seattle to take on the Kraken, who played the Oilers last night. Kraken -115, Islanders -103. And the other games tonight, Florida at LA. Pierre-Luc Dubois. We'll see what Doobie has today after kind of getting called out a little bit in the LA media. Kings -123, Panthers +105. The Blues have been playing well, the exception of against the Jets as of late. -205 for St. Louis in San Jose to take on the Sharks, +172. And tomorrow, early game, 2 p.m., I guess 1 p.m., I think, Winnipeg time, Leafs and Wings in Sweden at the Avicii Arena. -161 for Toronto and +136 for the Detroit Red Wings. It's all there on Coolbet. Check the Grey Cup props as well by clicking on the game. Plenty of options, more and more added throughout the weekend. It's all there at Coolbet. If you haven't played at Coolbet before, go to coolbet.com. When you make your first deposit, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Remo, we got through day one. A little hectic getting things set up, but I thought it was a great show. We've got some more great Bomber content. We'll have more for folks tomorrow, and we'll look forward to having probably spend the morning catching up with a bunch of our favorite guys covering the league and have a real mashup of tons of great content tomorrow on a program heading into the weekend. And, of course, a big Jets game that night against Buffalo, and we'll hopefully have Weber stop by to set that one up.
Yeah, Ken will be stopping by, and I love seeing a lot of familiar faces around. I see Ted Wyman, talk with him. Darren Bombing popped in to see how it's done over here. So we got on it, got it done. We did the show. Pretty awesome to be here in Hamilton. Looking forward to another couple days. And yeah, double Jets game weekend. Back-to-back home games. Doesn't happen too often. Unfortunately, we're here, but we'll find a place where we can catch those for sure.
Yeah, waiters saying, what are the dinner plans tonight? The dinner plans are probably going across the street to Shula's Joe's, ordering whatever they have there, having a few cold ones. I don't think they have Little Brown Jug here, but I will look. And watch the Bengals and Ravens, and then get up early morning tomorrow as we got to get down to the stadium. Plenty of things happening in and around the Alouettes. We want to catch up, paying off a few interviews as well as with some guys here. And it will be a packed show tomorrow with Ken Wiebe on the Winnipeg Jets and a big game preview, a little bit of audio from the Winnipeg Jets as well, heading into the first of the back-to-back games Friday and Saturday night, and a plethora of guests here in Hamilton for the Grey Cup, as well as Nick Dembski and Willie Jefferson, who we got to catch up with as well. Great show today. Thanks again to all of you for jumping on, and a special thank you for the patience of everyone that was with us live to fire it up at 1. The timing just getting back here, just a little bit later start, but we still cranked out well over 2 hours today for you, and we'll do it again tomorrow, beginning at 1 p.m. Fingers crossed. We should be good tomorrow, and don't miss it. I mean, one more night of regular programming, and we will be doing something on Saturday as well. We'll kind of firm up a time tomorrow for you and let you know kind of when we're planning on it, but while we're here, we may as well crank out a little bit more Winnipeg sports talk for Blue Bomber fans that cannot wait for kickoff on Sunday afternoon. Huge thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day, as well as our guests, Derek Taylor, Jamieson, Sheahan, Billeck, Rewucki, and tomorrow on the program, Ken Wiebe on the Jets will tee up Jets Sabres and continue getting ready for the big one, the 110th Grey Cup, right here in the Hammer on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night tonight. Enjoy the Thursday Nighter, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on WST. Have a good one, folks.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.